Today I'll be showing you if statements in Python, which are essentially a way to make decisions based on certain conditions. So a good way to think about if statements is that they work sort of the same as making decisions in real life. So for example, a decision could be something like, if it's raining, grab an umbrella. Or maybe, if the traffic light is green, go. Otherwise, stop. And they can have even more layers, like for example, if you have a math test tomorrow, study maths. Otherwise, if you have an English test tomorrow, study English. Or otherwise, take a study break. So these are all scenarios which sort of represent the logic that you would be following in an if statement. So let me show you how to do them. So let's just make a variable called x and set it to equal 5 for now. And now let's write a program that checks if x is less than 10. So this is a syntax for an if statement. You write if, and then you write a condition that you want to check. So for example, x is less than 10 is our condition this time. And then you write a colon, and press enter. And then in the indented line underneath the if, you write what happens if that condition is met. So let's just print x is less than 10. Alright, and now let's run that and see what happens. So as you can see in the output, it printed x is less than 10. And that's because right now x equals 5, so the condition that we wrote in our if statement was met. But let's see what happens if we change x to 11. So let's run that. And as you can see this time there is no output. And that's because the condition in our if statement, x is less than 10, wasn't met because 11 is greater than 10. So the code after the if just didn't run. Alright, let's do another one. So I'm going to make a variable called traffic light. And for now, I'll just set it to equal green. So let's make an if statement that prints go when the traffic light is green. So if traffic light, and in Python, if you want to check for equality, the symbol to do that is a double equals sign. So if traffic light is equal to green, we're going to print go. So let's give that a try. As you can see, it printed go in the output because traffic light is equal to green. But if we change it to something like red, for example, and run it again, this time it doesn't print anything because the code after the if statement doesn't run, since traffic light isn't equal to green. So less than and equals equals are both examples of comparison operators in Python, which you can use to compare values to check certain conditions. So these are pretty important to know for if statements, and some of the other ones that you'll need to know are exclamation mark equals, and that means not equal to, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. So these are just the most common ones. Another thing you can use in your if statements are the keywords and or, which you can use to check multiple conditions. So for example, let's just make a variable called num and set it to equal 10. And now I'm going to write code to check if num is greater than 5 and less than 20. So if num is greater than 5 and num is less than 20, print the number is between 5 and 20. Let's run that quickly. So as you can see, it prints the number is between 5 and 20 because 10 is greater than 5 and it's less than 20. And we can also use the word or in our if statements. So for example, we could write, if num is greater than 20, or num is less than 5, print the number is greater than 20 or less than 5. So now this is going to print if either one of those conditions are met. So let's try it. So as you can see, when I pressed run, nothing got outputted, and that's because num equals 10, and that's not greater than 20, and it's also not less than 5. But if we change it to 21, this time you can see there is an output, because one of the conditions was met. Num is greater than 20. And if we change it to 3, and run it, as you can see, there's an output again, this time because the second condition is met. Num is less than 5. So if you use or, only one of the conditions need to be met. Alright, now that we've looked at basic if statements, here's how you create multiple possible outputs based on different conditions. So instead of just doing a basic if statement, you can also do something called an if-else statement. So let me show you. So I'm going to make a variable called isHungry and set it to equal true for now. And then I'm going to write if isHungry is equal to true, print go eat something. But then what you can do afterwards is you can write else, and then what's going to happen if that condition isn't met. Print you're not hungry right now. So let's run this and see what happens. So as you can see, it printed go eat something, because isHungry is true. But if we make isHungry false, and then run it again, this time it prints you're not hungry right now. And we could even change the value of isHungry to something like hello. And if we run that, it's still going to print you're not hungry right now. Because the else is going to run as long as the condition that we've given the if statement is not met. So in this case, as long as isHungry isn't equal to true, the else is going to run and print you're not hungry right now. And you can have even more layers than just an if-else statement as well. So for example, I'm going to make a variable called kilometers per hour speed, and I'm going to make it an input. So it's going to ask you to enter your speed. And we can make it have 3 or more different possible outputs depending on what speed you enter. So I'm going to do if kilometer per hour speed is greater than or equal to 85, print slow down. And now if I want to, I can add even more conditions using something called else if. And you write it like this. Elif. So now I can add another condition. Like for example, kilometer per hour speed is less than 85. And kilometer per hour speed is greater than or equal to 70. In that case, we can print good job. And now I can add another condition. So you can essentially add as many as you want. So else if kilometer per hour speed is less than 70, print drive faster. And after that you can add an else as well. But you don't have to, it's optional. So I'm just going to get rid of the else for now. And I'm going to run it. And let's enter a speed of 100. And as you can see, it outputs slow down because the first condition was met. kilometer per hour speed is greater than or equal to 85. Right, now let's run it again, and this time I'm going to enter a speed of 80. And as you can see, this time it prints good job, because this time the condition less than 85 and greater than or equal to 70 was met. So it goes through the if statement line by line. If the first one isn't met, it goes to the second condition, and if the second condition isn't met, it goes to the third one, and so on. Now let's run it one more time, and this time let's enter something less than 70. So let's enter 60, and as you can see, it outputs drive faster, because this time kilometer per hour speed is less than 70. And just to show you, let's maybe add an else block. So first I'm going to change this to and kilometer speed is greater than or equal to 0. And then I'm going to add an else that will print you're reversing. So now if we run it, and I enter a negative speed, so let's do negative 20, as you can see, it prints you're reversing. Because negative 20 isn't greater than or equal to 85. It's also not less than 85 and greater than or equal to 70. And it's not less than 70 and greater than or equal to 0. So the only thing that's left is for it to run the else, which ends up outputting you're reversing. And that's how you do if statements. So thanks for watching.